Snoozecast, the podcast designed to help you fall asleep. On Snoozecast, we read excerpts from public domain works and, occasionally, original stories. Listen to us on snoozecast.com, like our Facebook page, and follow us on Instagram. We'd like to thank our listeners. If you enjoy our show and use an iPhone, please write us a review on the Apple Podcasts app. Also, share it with a friend. This episode is supported by finally getting that popcorn kernel out of your teeth. Tonight, we'll be reading a Snoozecast original, Acadia National Park. Come wander inside this 108 square mile oasis on your way to Blackwood's Campground, where ultimately you plan on falling asleep to the rhythmic waves of the Atlantic. Let's get cozy. Close your eyes. Relax your body into the softness of your bed. Now, take a few deep breaths. Along Maine's coast, where the icy Atlantic thrashes this stone shore, there's a large island called Mount Desert Island. It's located on Maine's northern coast. A small bridge connects it to the mainland across the Mount Desert Narrows. This 108 square mile island is an odd oasis. It is home to stately mountains rising out of the shimmering Atlantic. A large island, it is the second biggest on the eastern seaboard. Only Long Island is larger, with Martha's Vineyard trailing behind. Villages, beaches, wilderness, carriage roads, homes, businesses, and tourist shops are scattered across the landscape. Nearly 11,000 people call this place home year-round, but many more visit annually. They come to wander inside the national park that is at the heart of the island, Acadia. 3.5 million people drive the Loop Park Road, walk the streets of Bar Harbor, and explore the island's winding, tree-covered roads each year. It's close enough for many to drive out for a long weekend. Montreal is 330 miles northwest and a 6.5-hour drive. Boston is 281 miles south and a 4.5-hour trip. New York is 482 miles due south and an 8-hour drive. You're headed there now via the Maine Turnpike for a camping trip. Opened in your lap is a map of the island. The island itself is shaped like a large, stout egg with an indent on its northwest shore. On the eastern side, there's a village, Bar Harbor, the largest, busiest town on the island. Near the center, of Mount Desert Island are most of its main attractions. There is the national park itself, which takes up just over 30,000 acres of land. The names on the map before you say Sand Beach, Jordan Pond. There's a pair of hills called the Bubbles. Other names include Thunder Hole, Carriage Road, and the name of the island's tallest peak, Cadillac Mountain. The car approaches a small bridge. After crossing it, the road forks onto Route 3. This road hugs the island's northern coast. Out on the water, a ferry moves slowly with many people aboard, bound for Nova Scotia, Canada. The car slows as it nears the center of Bar Harbor. Homes and businesses crowd the main road. At the center of town, to the left of the car, there is a small park with a white gazebo. At the end of the street, you notice the ocean, a small park, a large hotel, and a ticket window selling passes for whale watching excursions. The car turns right, and the town fades in the rear view mirror. Your destination is Blackwoods Campground, located between the cliffs of the coast and Cadillac Mountain's 1,529-foot peak. Inside the campground, paved roads loop through the pine-covered forest floor. There are tiny tents, large tents, RVs, and pop-up campers staked and parked throughout the campground. Some of these sites have all the comforts of home, while other sites are sparse. Your drive continues as the camp's entrance grows near. Coming around a bend in the road, a long, slender pond appears. Hills rise sharply behind the pond. There is a vast wilderness beyond those hills. Up ahead, you see the entrance to the campground. It's getting dark now. Light is fading from the quiet hills. However, there should be just enough time to set up a tent before dark. The car turns left onto a smooth stretch of blacktop surrounded by forest. The air is salty, and you listen for the sound of waves. There is another scent in the air, the bright, pitchy smell of pine. Soon, a ranger station appears. Inside the cozy wooden station, a woman in a green uniform offers a greeting. After forms are filled out and signatures given, you leave the station with 2 cardboard passes. One is green, the other is white. These parking passes are tucked carefully onto the dashboard. The light fades as the tent is staked. Its nylon walls contain sleeping bags, flashlights, boots, and warm clothes, all neatly arranged. You head to bed soon after dark. Your alarm is set for a few hours before dawn. You plan to hike up Mount Cadillac to watch the sunrise. Some say the peak is where the sun's rays first reach the United States each morning. A handful of other peaks in Maine make that same claim, however. But there is no doubt the view will be worth the walk. You lie down in the tent. Outside, the campfire crackles and pops. Suddenly, the alarm sounds. It is 3:30 a.m., and the woods are silent. Bootlaces are tightened, and the necessary gear is secured. A bottle of water, trail mix, and a small flashlight. This walk will only be a few miles long. While it is steep in places, the trail is not too difficult. Overhead, clouds move swiftly as you leave the campsite. In between broken clouds, a pale yellow moon fades in and out of sight. The road ahead is dark on all sides, save for an illuminated circle emanating from the flashlight. You exit the campground and make your way to the head of the trail, located on the other side of Route 3. Far down the road, a tractor-trailer truck downshifts. The gears whir as their tempo slows. After the truck passes, you cross the road and step onto the trail. The trail is bound by tree roots. Careful steps are taken as it slopes gently upward. Higher and higher it climbs until the trees grow short and the canopy disappears. Above, a soft blue light creeps into the edges of the clouds. The flashlight goes dark. Your eyes adjust to the low light and the landscape comes into focus. You're standing on a ridge, and the trail ahead cleaves through these hills. The sky begins to brighten in the east. The sun is approaching the horizon. The forest has faded away completely as the walk continues, and the ridge becomes completely exposed. There's a sense of openness all around as you climb higher. In the distance, there is a road that snakes up the mountain. On it, there's a string of headlights. There are many people driving up the side of the mountain this morning to catch the sunrise. You will soon join them. As the summit grows closer, you stop and look around. Green islands are scattered about the blue ocean. Mountains of varying heights slope down into innumerable valleys. The meeting of these elemental vistas, sea, sky, and stone, is cinematic, sweeping, and seemingly endless. The view provokes an ancient stirring to wander. Your gaze turns back to the trail. This final bit requires a brief scramble through a brambled wood. The quiet you had become accustomed to is gone as the path emerges into a clearing near the peak. Just ahead, small groups are gathered across the wide summit. Car doors are heard shutting in an unseen parking lot. You find a not too crowded spot and take a seat. As if on cue, the sun slips above the horizon, and there's a smattering of applause and cheers from some of the people on top of the mountain. After a few minutes, the surrounding peaks are lit with sunlight as well. They remind you of candles. And then another handful of minutes pass and the day has arrived, along with friends who have driven up to bring you back down Cadillac Mountain. The drive is slow on the steep, curved road. Lakes, valleys, and other peaks are all around as the car eases down the mountain. Today's itinerary is light. Not much else is scheduled except for a visit to town and a brief tour of Acadia, a national park, with stops at Black Sand Beach and Thunder Hole. Gradually, the long views outside the car's windows disappear. Now there are marshes, meadows, and many trees passing by. Back at camp, a shower and change of clothes await. There's no time to linger, and soon you're back in the car on Route 3, traveling to Bar Harbor. This bustling village is anchored by a large hotel overlooking the water at one end. While it is popular with tourists, Bar Harbor has a matter-of-factness and independence that are the hallmarks of many small towns in New England. Walking around town, you're surrounded by others who are strolling and taking in the sights. Hours pass, and it's time to leave this quaint village for Black Sand Beach. This swath of sand is nestled among the inaccessible rocky shore. Park Loop Road will bring you to that beach and then on to Thunder Hole. Entering Acadia on Park Loop Road requires passing through a line of toll booths. The car stops, and a ranger glances at the green cardboard pass on the dashboard. The toll gate lifts, and the car enters the park proper. The ocean is to your left. The park's interior is on the right. There's a sign letting you know that the beach is only a few miles up ahead. There's an open spot inside a narrow parking lot where a steep trail leads down from the lot to a staircase, and then, finally, the beach. The water is frigid year-round this far north, even during high summer. Despite this fact, a few people are testing their tolerance for the cold. They can be seen running into the ocean and then, slightly quicker than before, running back out. Above, the sun shines, heating the soft, fine sand beneath your feet. On both sides, the small cove is bordered by chalky gray cliffs. The beach itself is only about 200 yards long, if that. Visible from the beach, looking away from the ocean, a green field gives way to small hills rising in the distance. You turn back to look at the ocean, then quickly back again at the field and far hills. The opposing landscapes, seen so swiftly one after the other, provides a sense of whiplash. You then notice that the undulations of the waves mirror the swaying of the field's tall blades of grass. The rhythm is one and the same. The thought relaxes you, so you lay down on the warm sand until it's time to leave for Thunder Hole. One of the park's famed attractions, Thunder Hole is home to a rocky inlet where water bursts forth from the unique geography depending on the time of day. Near the inlet, there is a cavern where water is funneled into the air, sometimes reaching as high as 40 feet. You arrive at the rocky outcropping where waves crash and foam and mist shoot up into the air like fireworks. The ocean spray cools the air around you. There is one last stop before it's time to head back to camp. Another trip to the top of Mount Cadillac is planned. The moon will be rising. Watching it come up will provide a nice way to end your first day in Acadia National Park. The car pulls on to Route 3 and then enters the road that heads up the mountain. The sun has lowered in the sky, far away from where you first saw it so many hours ago. The car climbs higher. Familiar spots from earlier in the day pass by. Near the parking lot is the same spot where you watched today's sunrise. Now, the sun is slowly sinking behind a wall of distant mountains. As is the case with all high places, the light is lingering much longer than usual. This gives the impression that the day is lasting a bit longer than usual. All around, the valleys have turned from an inviting shade of green to a darker, more mysterious tone. Eventually, the green hills go dark. Lights from the towns below blinker into view. Over the ocean, the moon makes an appearance in a hazy pink sky. You wonder to yourself if you and your friends are the only ones from the morning who returned to watch the moon rise. As you ponder that, a pale curve appears over the horizon. Then stars appear. If you stood in this same spot all night, the stars would appear to revolve around one point. That would be the North Star. Time-lapse photography has been used to capture the phenomenon, the celestial bodies appearing as streaks of light encircling that one point. The clock-like nature of the movements of those distant bodies must have seemed to be a perplexing problem for early astronomers. All around, the stars cast a muted light over the hills. The moon disappears behind clouds moving in fast from the west. The air is growing cooler, and it's time to head back down the mountain one final time today. Pleasantly weary, you relax in the back seat of the car, feeling the now familiar bends and curves of the mountain road. At Blackwoods, campers are performing chores. Towels are hung on clotheslines. Wood is gathered for fires. Pots and pans are scrubbed. And many people are simply just relaxing. But now it's time to prepare a fire. It's been said that the best fire is one that requires a single match to light. That is easy to do if some simple steps are followed. Start by placing the smallest, most flammable material available in the center of the fire pit. Paper works just fine. However, using birch bark would mark you as a true Mainer. Around the bark, thin twigs must then be arranged, laid carefully on top of each other in a square. Slightly larger pieces of wood should be arranged over the square of tinder and leaned up against each other to form a pyramid shape. Then, larger sticks should be stacked again in a square shape. Finally, lean a few logs over the stack of tinder and kindling. A match is struck. Its flame is held close to the center of this tidy pile of wood. The birch bark is lit, and now there is a roaring fire. Once the coals are glowing orange, a metal grate is placed over them. On the grate, a cast iron pan is set. Food sizzles in the pan as you prepare the meal, with wood smoke curling up into the cool Maine air. The fire burns down, and one by one, your friends slip away into the tent. The whole camp is quiet. You stir the coals until the flames are gone. Then you take a sleeping bag gently from the tent and walk to a nearby trail. This is the same trail you walked to reach the mountain peak earlier in the day. This trail happens to be Blackwoods' main thoroughfare. Walk north, and Cadillac's summit awaits. Due south, the trail leads to a rocky, oceanside outcropping. You turn on the small flashlight in your hand and walk toward the water. The soft rustle of leaves is heard until the breeze carries the sound of crashing waves to your ears. Standing closer to the water now, the pounding surf grows louder, drowning out the murmuring breeze. The trail arrives at a paved road. Straight ahead, the water is dark and formless through a stand of trees. In the sky, there is an endless field of stars. Crossing the road brings you to one last stretch of trail. At its end, there is a series of small cliffs. The granite drops steeply into the ocean, which is about 30 feet below. The sleeping bag is unfurled, and you get nestled inside. The breeze picks up as you drift into a restful state of mind. Breakers close in upon the coast. A hearty crash is followed again and again by the applause-like sound of water droplets falling on the rocks. The pulsing of the waves is uneven, and the moment your mind finds a pattern to the churning sea, an errant wave breaks the spell. Countless vibrations precede this moment, and countless vibrations shall follow, you think to yourself. Far out on the ocean, near the horizon, clouds begin to blanket the canopy of stars. Too tired to walk back to your camp, you curl up inside the warm sleeping bag. You take a deep breath. The sounds of the ocean and wind are all encompassing. After another deep breath, you relax into the softness of your sleeping bag. Air gently fills your lungs, and you gently exhale. At times, the rhythm of your breathing matches the rhythm of the waves. At other times, it's slightly off tempo. But this steady breathing relaxes you greatly. You exhale gently again, and then ease into a restful slumber.